I'm the chef of a pop-up restaurant named Spice, and when we do our pop-up dinners, we like to create the menu around a central theme, and we like each dish to have its own technique, its own flavor identity, so that each dish is different and exciting in its own way. For this tasting menu, we utilized MIC food yuca and plantains. And the goal that we had with this menu was to try to utilize those ingredients in as many different ways as possible, and to utilize them in some creative aspects that maybe hadn't been used before in the past. For the first course, I wanted to explore using the plantains in a sauce. I thought that the sweetness paired against the acidity and the spice that we were adding to the sauce would play nicely, and it would also give the sauce a nice viscosity to be able to coat the fish well. Yuca is a great ingredient in that it has a heavy starch content that can be manipulated into a lot of different things for different dishes, and it also has a good base flavor that can act as a foundation to add other ingredients upon. For the second course, I wanted to use yuca in its natural uncut state. I wanted to use a whole big piece and almost treat it like a piece of meat. So we quickly blanched it, and then we basted it in butter and herbs like you would do a steak, and then glazed it with a sticky chili glaze. We paired the yuca with local caught San Diego uni that was placed over a charred avocado and mango salad, and we garnished with garlic blossoms, purslane, and finished it with a cilantro yuzu crema. For the third course, we wanted to treat the yuca like a potato and make it into a gnocchi. We then took the plantains and worked them into a curried plantain cream. We tossed it with papaya with curry oil and brown butter. We then paired it with fried garlic, sea beans, and opal basil. For the fourth course, we took the plantains and combined them with sweet potatoes and other aromatics to create a rich and velvety sauce. We then paired that with jerk spice chicken thigh, roasted carrots, whole fried plantains, pickled starfruit, and thyme blossoms. The plantains were very fun to work with because there's many different types. You have ripe, which is sweet and soft, and you have green, which is savory and more starchy. The flavor of the ripe plantains was sweet and rich and paired well with my style of cooking that uses a lot of bright and spicy flavor notes. For dessert, I made a flourless chocolate cake with a ripe plantain layer. We then took the grated yuca and created a light and crispy fritter. We paired that with a passion fruit star anise glaze, fresh grated nutmeg, hoja santa, and marigold petals. I was surprised at how versatile the plantains and yuca from MIC Foods were. They're very easy to use in a variety of different techniques, and they pair great with all the different tropical fruits we used on the menu.
I am influenced by rich traditional dishes from Mexico, more specifically the state of Oaxaca. I have family in Oaxaca, and every time I go, it's an inspiration to eat, whether it's street food or a fine dining restaurant. I bring back those flavors and all those experiences that I share, and I try to represent them as best I can in my restaurant. Using frozen plantains from MIC Foods, I created a plantain coulis with orange juice and chili oil. It rendered a creamy, rich, and vibrant color on the plate. The heirloom tomatoes and the local peach slices were marinated in a peach vinaigrette. We put that on top of the plantain coulis with a little bit of toasted pepitas, and then added a little bit of rock crab that was marinated in orange juice, chili oil, and cilantro. We thinly sliced the plantains and set them on top of the yellowtail. Then we hit them with the torch to give them a nice charred look and roasted flavor. There's nothing that brings families more together in Mexico than a well-made mole. I took the frozen plantains and mixed them together with about 30 other ingredients to render an incredibly rich and sweet mole. Adding plantains to a rich sauce like mole really brings out different flavors that otherwise you wouldn't note.
So our star here in the restaurant is obviously seafood, but I also like to throw a little bit of a vegetable focus on our menu. Coming from a vegetarian family, I've always wanted my restaurant to be a place that my parents could come and visit and eat. Seafood is so important in our everyday life. We have this gorgeous view of the coast of San Diego, and so we need to capitalize on that by including what these fishermen are doing out there. We're trying to do different techniques to it that really opens people's eyes by using a lot of Indian spice and Mexican influence, and then, we hit it with a little bit of East Asian and Spanish and the Mediterranean. Yuca is one of those ingredients that's so underutilized. It's a beautiful root vegetable that can be used similar to a potato. You can roast it, you can mash it, you can fry it, you can boil it, and add all these great flavors. And it has this sweetness and this starchiness it just melts every time you cook with it. My love for food came from my mom, believe it or not, and I'm also a self-taught chef. My mom always wanted me to focus on school, and she never really let me help her out in the kitchen, but I watched. And she was always happy every time she was cooking for her family. I'm a first-generation Indian, but I'm also American. My cooking style is about melting everything from my traditions to what I grew up around. I never want to define myself as one type of chef. I want to keep pushing and evolving every day.